Imagine this. You're standing face to face with someone who wants to destroy you. Not physically necessarily. Maybe they want to humiliate you in front of your colleagues. Maybe they want to manipulate you into surrendering your boundaries. Maybe they want to see you lose control, proving they have power over you. There's no escape, no backup, no second chances. The only thing that stands between you and complete emotional destruction is your mind. Will you freeze? Will your voice tremble? Will your heartbeat betray you? Will you say something you can't take back? Will you lose control and hand them exactly what they want? Or will you stay as still as a mountain, unaffected by their chaos, detached from the emotional storm, fully in control? This is not just philosophy. This is survival. The most dangerous person in any confrontation isn't the loudest or the strongest. It's the calmest. Miyamoto Musashi understood this paradox completely and developed a systematic approach to emotional control that his opponents couldn't counter. This method helped him win 60 consecutive duels to the death. 60 times he stood across from someone trying to kill him. 60 times his opponent had skill, strength, and murderous intent. And 60 times Musashi won. Not because he was the best swordsman. Many of his opponents were technically superior, but because he mastered something more fundamental than sword technique. He mastered himself. While his opponents became their fear, their anger, their desperation, Musashi remained separate from his emotions, watching the confrontation as if from above, seeing clearly while others drowned in their own reactions. This emotional distance, combined with 3 other principles, made him literally unbeatable. His 4-step framework for maintaining calm works in any modern conflict, and it begins with a principle most people never consider: the ability to create space between what happens and how you react. This isn't about suppression. It isn't about pretending you don't feel emotions. It's about developing the capacity to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. Think about the last time someone made you truly angry. In that moment, you became your anger. Your words, actions, and thoughts all serve the emotion, not your actual goals. This is exactly what Musashi's opponents did. They became their anger, fear, or pride. And in that fusion between person and emotion, they lost the ability to think strategically. They could only react. And reaction against strategy loses. Every time. But here's what most people don't understand. Your brain is designed to make you reactive. It's not a flaw. It's evolution. For millions of years, humans who reacted instantly to threats survived. The ones who paused to think got eaten. So your brain developed an ancient alarm system, the amygdala, that hijacks your entire nervous system the moment it detects danger. When someone yells at you, criticizes you, threatens you, or challenges you, your amygdala can't tell the difference between that and a physical attack. Both register as threat, and when threat is detected, your body floods with stress hormones. Your heart rate spikes. Your breathing becomes shallow. Blood flow redirects away from your thinking brain to your muscles. Your pupils dilate. Your hands get cold. You sweat. Your entire physiology shifts into fight or flight mode. This response kept your ancestors alive when being eaten by predators was a daily concern. But in today's world, where your biggest threat is an angry boss or a manipulative family member, this ancient wiring is completely counterproductive. You don't need to run or fight. You need to think clearly, speak calmly, and respond strategically. But your biology makes that impossible, unless you train yourself differently. This is what Musashi discovered, that the battle isn't against your opponent. The battle is against your own panic response. Master that internal battle, and the external battle becomes almost easy. Your opponent is still trying to make you react, but you're not reacting. You're responding. There's a world of difference between the two. Reaction is automatic. Unconscious. Controlled by the amygdala. Response is conscious. Strategic. Controlled by the prefrontal cortex, the thinking, planning, decision-making part of your brain. The person who reacts is at the mercy of their emotions. The person who responds is directing their emotions toward a purpose. This audiobook will teach you Musashi's complete system for staying calm in any confrontation. Not through willpower. Willpower fails under pressure. Not through motivation. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unreliable during conflict. But through technique. Specific, trainable, neurologically backed techniques that work even when you're terrified, even when you're furious, even when every instinct is screaming at you to panic. You will learn 4 core principles. Each one builds on the previous. Each one addresses a different aspect of the panic response. And together, they form a complete system for maintaining absolute composure when everyone around you is losing control. Principle 1. Emotional distance. The ability to create space between what you feel and how you respond. To observe your emotions without becoming them. Principle 2. Anticipatory awareness. The skill of predicting confrontation patterns so you're never caught completely by surprise. Your body handles expected stress differently than unexpected stress. Principle 3. Strategic breathing. The technique of using breath to directly control your nervous system. Fast breathing triggers panic. Slow breathing triggers calm. It's that simple and that powerful. Principle 4. Purposeful action. The practice of defining your actual objective before confrontation begins, so your calm serves a purpose rather than becoming passive acceptance. These 4 principles aren't abstract philosophy. They're practical tools backed by modern neuroscience. Brain scans confirm what Musashi intuited centuries ago, that emotional labeling activates the prefrontal cortex and calms the amygdala. That anticipated stress releases hormones, gradually rather than all at once. That controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. That clear purpose prevents emotional hijacking. But knowledge isn't enough. You can understand these principles intellectually and still panic when confrontation hits. Because panic isn't an intellectual event. It's a physiological event. Your body takes over. Your thinking brain goes offline. And all the knowledge in the world doesn't help if you can't access it in the moment. That's why this audiobook doesn't just explain the principles. It gives you the exact practice protocols for training each skill until it becomes automatic. Until you can access it even when your heart is racing and your hands are shaking and your amygdala is screaming danger. Because here's the truth. You will face confrontation. It's not optional. Difficult conversations, aggressive people, manipulative situations, high-pressure moments where everything is on the line. These are inevitable parts of life. The only question is, will you be controlled by these situations, or will you maintain control despite them? The person who masters emotional control doesn't just win arguments. They access a level of clarity and power that others can't comprehend. They see options that panic-blind people miss. They speak with precision while others scramble. They make strategic decisions while others make emotional mistakes. They remain dangerous while others become desperate. This is what made Musashi undefeatable. Not superior technique, superior self-mastery. And that same mastery is available to you. Not through years of meditation in a cave, not through mystical enlightenment, but through systematic practice of specific techniques that rewire how your brain responds to threat. In the coming chapters, you'll learn each technique in depth, not just what to do, but why it works, how to practice it, and what to do when it fails, because it will fail sometimes. You'll panic when you wanted to stay calm. You'll react when you're meant to respond. This is normal, expected, part of the learning process. But with each practice session, the panic becomes slightly less intense. The reaction becomes slightly slower. The space between trigger and response becomes slightly wider. And in that growing space, you develop the capacity to choose, to decide consciously rather than react unconsciously, to maintain control even when everything is chaos. This is mastery, not perfection, not emotionless robotic calm, but the ability to function clearly even when emotions are running high, to think strategically even when your body is screaming panic, to respond purposefully even when instinct says react. The way forward begins with understanding the first principle, emotional distance, the foundation that everything else builds upon, the skill of watching your emotions like clouds passing by without becoming the storm. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Emotional distance, the foundation of control. When someone insults you, challenges you, or attacks you verbally, what happens in your mind? For most people, the sequence is instant and unconscious. Trigger happens. Emotion arises. Person becomes emotion. Reaction follows automatically. Someone says you're incompetent. Anger flashes. You are anger. You lash out. Or someone threatens you. Fear spikes. You are fear. You freeze. The emotion and the person fuse together in milliseconds. And in that fusion, choice disappears. You're no longer deciding how to respond. The emotion is deciding for you. This is the trap that destroys most people during confrontation. They don't lose because they lack good responses. They lose because they can't access those responses. The emotion takes over completely, hijacks the controls, and drives them straight into reactions they'll regret. Musashi discovered the antidote. In his writings, he described watching confrontation as if from above, like seeing clouds pass by without becoming the storm. This is emotional distance, not the absence of emotion. Musashi felt fear, anger, and pressure just like anyone else, but he developed the ability to create space between the emotion and his response to it. Think about the difference between these two statements. I am angry versus I'm noticing anger is present right now. The first is fusion. You've become the anger. Your identity, your thinking, your actions, all aligned with emotion. The second is observation. Anger is something you're experiencing, not something you are. And that subtle shift in language reflects a profound shift in relationship to the emotion. When you observe an emotion rather than becoming it, something remarkable happens. You maintain access to your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, planning, strategizing part of your brain. The emotion is still there. You can still feel it, but it's not controlling you. You're watching it, and in that watching, you create the possibility of choice. This isn't spiritual philosophy. It's neuroscience. Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA conducted studies where people in brain scanners looked at images of angry faces. Their amygdalas lit up, threat detected, emotional alarm activated. But when researchers asked them to label the emotion they saw, this person looks angry, something changed. Their prefrontal cortex activated, and their amygdala activity decreased. The simple act of naming the emotion literally calmed the emotional response. This is called affect labeling, and it's one of the most powerful techniques for creating emotional distance. When you label what you're feeling, I'm noticing anger. Fear is arising. I'm experiencing defensiveness. You activate the rational part of your brain, which has a calming effect on the emotional part. But here's the crucial distinction that most people miss. There's a massive difference between I am angry and I'm noticing anger. The first is still fusion. You're claiming the emotion as identity. The second is true observation. You're witnessing the emotion as a temporary state, not a permanent identity. Try this right now. Think about something that recently annoyed you. As you recall it, notice what arises. Maybe irritation, maybe frustration, maybe residual anger. Now say to yourself, I'm noticing emotion. Not I am emotion. Just I'm noticing emotion is present. Do you feel the subtle shift? You're still feeling the emotion, but there's a tiny space between you and it, a millimeter of distance, and in that millimeter lives your power to choose your response. This is the skill Musashi trained relentlessly. In his most famous duel against Sasaki Kojiro, his opponent arrived angry and impatient. Musashi had deliberately arrived late, knowing this would frustrate Kojiro. And as Kojiro became his anger, his movements aggressive, his thinking clouded, his strategy abandoned, Musashi remained separate from his own emotions. He could see Kojiro's anger, could see his own alertness and focus, but wasn't consumed by either. He was the observer, watching the confrontation unfold, responding strategically rather than reacting emotionally. When the duel began, Musashi won with a single strike. Because while Kojiro was busy being angry, Musashi was busy being strategic. And strategy beats emotion. Always. The practice of observation. Developing emotional distance isn't a one-time insight. It's a skill built through repetition. Here's the systematic approach. Week 1, low-stakes practice. Don't start with your hardest confrontations. Start with minor annoyances. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your coffee order is wrong. Someone's loud on their phone in public. Small things that trigger small reactions. When the irritation arises, practice the formula. I'm noticing irritation. Don't try to change the feeling. Don't judge yourself for having it. Just name it. Observe it. Create that tiny space between stimulus and response. Do this dozens of times. Every minor annoyance becomes a practice opportunity. You're training your brain to recognize, oh, there's an emotion arising. I can observe this instead of becoming it. Week 2, body awareness. Emotions don't just exist in your thoughts. They manifest physically. Tightness in chest, clenching in jaw, heat in face, tension in shoulders, shallow breathing. These body sensations often arise before you consciously recognize the emotion, which means you can catch emotional reactions earlier by paying attention to physical signals. Practice noticing body sensations. I'm noticing my chest tightening. I'm noticing tension in my jaw. I'm noticing my breathing getting shallow. This body-based awareness gives you even earlier warning that something is triggering you. And early warning means more time to create distance before the emotion fully manifests. Week 3, thought observation. Advanced practice. Observe your thoughts the same way you observe emotions. Thoughts like, he's disrespecting me, or this is unfair, or she's trying to manipulate me aren't facts. They're interpretations, mental events arising in consciousness, and you can observe them without automatically believing them. Practice. I'm having the thought that he's disrespecting me. I'm noticing the thought that this is unfair. This prevents you from treating every thought your panicked brain generates as absolute truth. Your brain will produce dozens of catastrophic interpretations during confrontation. If you believe all of them, you spiral. But if you see them as thoughts, just mental events that may or may not be accurate, you can evaluate them rationally. Week 4, real confrontation. After 3 weeks of practice, apply this during an actual conflict. Not your hardest one, but a real one. Maybe a tense conversation with your partner. Maybe a difficult meeting at work. Maybe a confrontation with a family member. Use all 3 levels. Observe emotions. I'm noticing anger rising. Observe body. I'm noticing my heart racing. Observe thoughts. I'm having the thought that she's attacking me. You're not trying to stop feeling these things. You're creating observation distance from them. And that distance is what allows you to respond strategically instead of reacting emotionally. the neuroscience behind the space. What's actually happening in your brain when you create emotional distance? Let's break down the mechanism. When confrontation triggers your amygdala, it initiates a cascade. Stress hormones flood your system. Your sympathetic nervous system activates fight or flight mode. Blood flow redirects from prefrontal cortex to limbic system and muscles. Your thinking brain gets less resources. Your emotional brain gets more. This is why you can't think straight during high-stress confrontation. Literally, your thinking centers are being suppressed. But when you label the emotion, "I'm noticing anger," you engage your prefrontal cortex. You're using language, which requires the thinking brain. And activation of the prefrontal cortex has an inhibitory effect on the amygdala. Think of it like a seesaw. When the thinking brain goes up, the emotional alarm goes down. This isn't complete. You don't go from full panic to perfect calm instantly, but the amygdala's intensity decreases. The stress response moderates. Blood flow starts returning to your prefrontal cortex. You regain some capacity to think, plan, and choose your response. Brain scans show this clearly. When people label emotions, the bright red activation in their amygdala dims. The prefrontal cortex lights up. The balance shifts from emotional reactivity toward rational response. Not completely, but enough to make the difference between blind reaction and strategic choice. This is why therapists teach patients to name feelings during stress. Why mindfulness practices emphasize observing thoughts without judgment. Why Musashi emphasized mental distance from the chaos of battle. They're all pointing at the same neurological mechanism. Observation calms reaction. Common mistakes in practice. As you develop emotional distance, watch for these traps. Mistake 1. Judging the emotion. I'm noticing anger. I shouldn't be angry. What's wrong with me? This is an observation. This is judgment layered on top of emotion. Now you're feeling anger about anger, or shame about fear. This makes everything worse. Observation is neutral. I'm noticing anger. Period. No judgment. No shame. Just seeing what's present. Mistake 2. Using distance to suppress. Some people use this technique to pretend they're not feeling what they're actually feeling. I'm totally calm. I'm just observing. Meanwhile, they're white-knuckling through intense emotion and calling it observation. Real emotional distance doesn't deny or suppress. It acknowledges, yes, I'm feeling intense anger right now. I'm noticing that, and I'm choosing not to be controlled by it. Mistake 3. Waiting for the emotion to disappear. Observation doesn't make emotions vanish. Sometimes you'll observe anger, and it'll stay there for the entire confrontation. That's fine. The point isn't making emotions go away. The point is maintaining your ability to think and respond strategically despite them. You can be angry and strategic simultaneously. You can be afraid and functional simultaneously. Distance doesn't equal absence. Mistake 4. Only practicing after emotions arise. The best time to develop this skill is before you need it. Practice when you're calm. Set aside 5 minutes daily to simply observe whatever emotions are present, even if they're mild. I'm noticing slight contentment. I'm noticing mild boredom. This builds the observation muscle in low-pressure situations, so it's available in high-pressure ones. When distance alone isn't enough, emotional distance is foundational, but it's not complete. You'll encounter confrontations where you can observe your panic, can label your fear, can create that space, and it's still overwhelming. The emotion is too big. The threat feels too real. The observation helps, but not enough. This is normal, expected, and it's why Musashi didn't stop at emotional distance. He developed a complete system for principles that work together, each compensating for the limits of the others. Emotional distance creates space between you and your reaction. But what if you're caught by surprise? What if the confrontation triggers you so intensely that you can barely think, let alone observe? This is where the second principle becomes essential: anticipatory awareness. The skill of preparing your mind before confrontation hits so you're never completely blindsided. Because here's what neuroscience reveals. Your body reacts very differently to expected stress versus unexpected stress. Surprise triggers maximum panic, full stress hormone dump, complete amygdala hijack. But anticipated stress? Your brain prepares gradually, releases hormones strategically, keeps your prefrontal cortex online. The difference is profound. And it's the difference between functioning under pressure and collapsing under it. This is what we'll explore in the next chapter. How to develop the foreknowledge that Musashi called essential. How to predict confrontation patterns so you're always at least partially prepared. How to turn surprise attacks into expected challenges that your brain can handle strategically. But first, practice emotional distance. Because everything builds on this foundation. Without the ability to observe your emotions instead of becoming them, no other technique will work. With it, everything else becomes possible. Notice what you feel. Name it. Create space. This is where mastery begins. Chapter 2. Anticipatory Awareness, Knowing What's Coming. Musashi wrote extensively about what he called foreknowledge, the ability to sense what's coming before it arrives. This wasn't psychic ability or mystical intuition. It was pattern recognition trained to the level of instinct. And it's the second pillar of staying calm during confrontation. Here's the principle. Your nervous system responds differently to expected challenges versus unexpected ones. When confrontation catches you by surprise, your amygdala triggers maximum threat response. Every stress hormone dumps into your bloodstream at once. Your heart rate spikes to 140 plus beats per minute. Your thinking brain shuts down almost completely. You enter pure survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze. This is why people describe being blindsided by conflict as so devastating. It's not just the confrontation itself. It's that their nervous system went into full emergency mode because it wasn't prepared. But when you anticipate a challenge, when you've thought through what might happen and prepared mental responses, your brain handles it differently. Stress hormones release gradually rather than all at once. Your heart rate elevates, yes, but moderately. Your prefrontal cortex stays partially online. You can still think, still strategize, still make conscious choices. The confrontation might be just as difficult, but you remain functional through it instead of being overwhelmed by it. This is the power of anticipatory awareness. Not preventing confrontation. You can't control other people, but removing the surprise element that makes confrontation so physiologically overwhelming. The pattern recognition system. Musashi studied his opponents obsessively before facing them. He learned their favorite techniques, their temperament, how they handled pressure, what made them angry or impatient. Before his famous duel with Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi gathered detailed intelligence. Kojiro favored a specific longsword technique. He had a quick temper. He became impatient when kept waiting. His pride was his weakness. Armed with this foreknowledge, Musashi crafted his strategy. He carved a wooden sword on his boat ride to the duel, making it slightly longer than Kojiro's blade. Just enough extra reach to create advantage. He arrived late deliberately, knowing this would frustrate Kojiro and push him toward emotional reaction. By the time the duel began, Musashi had already won it. Not through superior technique, through superior preparation. You can apply the same principle to every recurring confrontation in your life. The difficult boss who criticizes everything. The family member who manipulates through guilt. The colleague who passive-aggressively undermines you. The friend who always needs to be right. These people follow patterns, and patterns can be mapped, predicted, and prepared for. Think about someone in your life who regularly triggers you during confrontations. Now ask yourself, what patterns do they follow? What phrases do they use repeatedly? What tactics do they employ? How do they typically react when challenged? What do they actually want from the interaction? Write this down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. You're creating an anticipation playbook, and this playbook transforms confrontation from chaotic emotional chaos into navigable terrain. The three-question framework. Before any potentially difficult interaction, invest 5 to 10 minutes asking 3 specific questions. These questions focus your anticipatory awareness and prepare your nervous system for what's likely coming. Question 1. What is this person's likely emotional state? Not what you want it to be. What it actually will be based on the situation and their patterns. Your boss is under pressure from his superiors to improve team performance. He's probably stressed and focused on results, not on being nice. Your mother feels lonely after her spouse died and doesn't know how to connect without criticism. She's probably already defensive before you arrive. Understanding their probable emotional state prevents you from taking their behavior personally. It's not about you. It's about where they are emotionally. This reframe alone reduces your defensive reaction significantly. Question 2. What does this person actually want from this interaction? Not what they're saying they want. What they actually want beneath the surface. Your boss says he wants explanations for missed targets. What he actually wants is evidence you're solving the problem. Your mother says she's worried about your choices. What she actually wants is reassurance she's still important to you. When you understand their underlying want, you can speak to that instead of getting derailed by surface complaints. This strategic focus keeps you from getting pulled into pointless arguments about peripheral issues. Question 3. What are the 3 most likely ways this person might react during this conversation? Best case, middle case, worst case. Your boss might accept your update and move on best. He might acknowledge progress, but want more before fully trusting you middle. He might escalate criticism and threaten consequences worst. By mentally preparing responses for all 3 scenarios, you eliminate surprise. Whatever happens, you've already thought through it at least partially. Your brain has a prepared pathway instead of having to improvise under stress. This 3-question framework takes minutes, but it fundamentally changes how your nervous system handles the confrontation. You're not walking into unknown territory. You're walking into mapped territory where you've already mentally rehearsed responses. The FBI approach. The FBI's Crisis Negotiation Unit uses anticipatory awareness as core methodology. Before engaging with a hostage-taker or barricaded subject, negotiators spend hours profiling the individual. They analyze past behavior patterns, psychological state, likely triggers, and probable responses to different approaches. They map multiple scenario branches. If we say X, subject will probably respond with Y or Z. If Y, we respond with A. If Z, we respond with B. This extensive preparation allows negotiators to remain calm in situations that would panic anyone unprepared. When the subject makes a threat, it's not unexpected. It fits predicted patterns. When the subject says something that seems random, it's probably not random. It aligns with their psychological profile. The negotiator has already processed most possible responses before the conversation even begins. This is professional-level anticipatory awareness. And while you're probably not negotiating hostage situations, the principle applies identically to your difficult boss, your manipulative family member, your aggressive colleague. These people are predictable. They follow patterns. And if you take time to map those patterns, you remove the surprise element that triggers panic. Scenario mapping exercise. Here's a practical protocol for developing anticipatory awareness. Step 1. Identify your recurring confrontations. List the 3 people or situations that most frequently trigger difficult confrontations in your life. Be specific. Not my boss, but quarterly review meetings with my boss. Not my mother, but Sunday dinners at my mother's house. Specificity helps you recognize patterns. Step 2. Pattern analysis. For each confrontation, document the patterns. What usually triggers the conflict? What does this person typically say or do? What's their usual emotional state? How do they typically respond to different approaches from you? What do they actually want beneath surface complaints? What are your usual emotional reactions? What responses from you make things better versus worse? Be honest. Brutally honest. You're not judging yourself or them. You're mapping terrain. The more accurate your map, the better you can navigate. Step 3. Pre-game ritual. Before any anticipated difficult interaction, establish a preparation ritual. 10 minutes before the meeting, conversation, or event, find a quiet space. Close your eyes. Ask the 3 questions. Mentally rehearse 3 scenario branches. Visualize yourself responding calmly in each scenario, not perfectly calmly. This mental rehearsal primes your nervous system. When the actual confrontation unfolds, your brain recognizes, "I've been here before," in visualization. This familiarity moderates the stress response. Step 4. Post-game analysis. After confrontations, review. What did I anticipate correctly? What surprised me? What patterns am I noticing? How can I anticipate this better next time? This feedback loop sharpens your pattern recognition over time. You get better at predicting, better at preparing, better at staying calm because you're less frequently surprised. The chess player's mind. Skilled chess players see 5 moves ahead. They don't guess. They recognize patterns and calculate likely responses. If I move here, opponent will probably respond there or there. If they go there, I have 3 options. If they go there instead, I have these 2 options. They're constantly anticipating and preparing. Musashi applied this same strategic thinking to human behavior during confrontation. People, like chess players, have limited options in any given situation. When someone feels threatened, they have maybe 5 likely responses: aggressive attack, passive withdrawal, defensive justification, counteraccusation, or deflection. When someone feels guilty, their options narrow further: denial, rationalization, or admission. If you study people even casually, these patterns become visible. And once visible, they become predictable. And once predictable, they become manageable. This is how masters of conflict stay so calm. They're rarely genuinely surprised by what people do, because people are remarkably predictable under stress. Reading body language. Anticipatory awareness extends beyond predicting what people will say. It includes reading what their body is already telling you before words arrive. When someone crosses their arms and leans back, they're closing off. Defensiveness is building. When someone's jaw tightens and their breathing accelerates, anger is rising. When someone breaks eye contact repeatedly and their hand goes to their neck, they're uncomfortable or lying. When someone suddenly goes very still, they're preparing for aggression. These microexpressions and body language cues happen faster than conscious speech, which means you can see emotional reactions building before the person even fully experiences them consciously. This gives you precious seconds to prepare your response. The practice: watch people constantly, not in a creepy way, in an observational way. Notice what body language precedes what verbal reactions. Build your pattern library. After months of this, you develop an almost sixth sense ability to feel when someone's emotional state is shifting. You're not psychic. You're just reading signals that most people ignore. When anticipation fails, you won't predict everything. Sometimes people will surprise you. New situations arise. People behave out of character. Variables you couldn't foresee change the dynamic. This is inevitable. And it's why anticipatory awareness isn't a complete system. It's one principle among four. When you're caught by surprise despite your best preparation, you still have emotional distance, observing rather than becoming the emotion, and strategic breathing, which we'll cover in the next chapter. Anticipatory awareness reduces surprise. It doesn't eliminate it, but reducing surprise by even 50% makes an enormous difference in your ability to stay functional. And here's something crucial. Even when surprised, the practice of anticipatory awareness gives you a framework for rapid adaptation. You've trained your mind to think in scenarios and responses. So when something unexpected happens, you can quickly generate, okay, this is new. What are 3 ways I might respond? What's each person's likely reaction to those responses? You're improvising, yes, but improvising with a strategic framework rather than just panicking. The preparation paradox. There's an interesting paradox with anticipatory awareness. The better you get at it, the less you need it. Because as you develop the skill of predicting confrontation, you also develop the skill of avoiding unnecessary confrontation entirely. You start noticing, this conversation is heading toward conflict. I can redirect it now before we get there. Or, this person is trying to trigger me. I don't have to take the bait. Or, this confrontation serves no useful purpose. I can choose not to engage. Musashi fought 60 duels, but after his final duel at age 29, he stopped fighting duels entirely. Not because he became weak, because he became so skilled that no one challenged him anymore. And the few who did, he could defeat without violence, through reputation, strategy, or simply walking away because the fight didn't serve any purpose. This is the ultimate goal. Become so skilled at anticipating and navigating confrontation that most confrontations never happen. And when they do happen, you're prepared enough that they don't overwhelm you. But preparation alone isn't enough, because even when you've created emotional distance and anticipated what's coming, your body still reacts. Your heart still races. Your breathing still shallows. Your hands still tremble. The physiology of threat still activates. This is where the third principle becomes essential: strategic breathing. The technique Musashi emphasized as crucial for maintaining clarity during combat. Because while you can't directly control your heart rate or stress hormones, you can control your breath. And through breath, you can indirectly control everything else. Chapter 3. Strategic Breathing. Controlling the body's response. Throughout his writings, Musashi emphasized that breath control was essential for maintaining clarity during combat. He observed that when swordsmen became afraid or angry, their breathing changed first, becoming shallow, rapid, and uneven. This disrupted their timing, their precision, their judgment. Everything fell apart from disrupted breathing. Musashi taught that mastering your breath meant mastering your mind. Here's why breathing is so powerful. It's the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control. You can't tell your heart to slow down through will alone. You can't consciously reduce cortisol in your bloodstream. You can't command your pupils to stop dilating. But you can control how you breathe. And through breathing, you indirectly control everything else. Your breath is a direct line to your nervous system. Fast, shallow breathing sends the signal danger. Prepare for threat. Slow, deep breathing sends the signal safe. Calm down. And your nervous system responds automatically to these signals. This means you can hack your physiological state through intentional breathing patterns. The 2 modes of your nervous system, Your autonomic nervous system has two modes, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Think of them as the gas pedal and brake pedal of your stress response. Sympathetic, gas pedal. Fight or flight mode. When activated, heart rate increases, breathing accelerates, blood pressure rises, digestion shuts down, muscles tense, pupils dilate, sweat glands activate. Everything designed to help you survive immediate physical danger. This is the mode your body enters during confrontation. Parasympathetic, brake pedal. Rest and digest mode. When activated, heart rate decreases, breathing slows, blood pressure drops, digestion resumes, muscles relax, pupils constrict, sweating stops. Everything designed to help you recover and rebuild. This is the mode you want to access during confrontation to maintain calm. Most people have no conscious control over which mode they're in. Confrontation hits, sympathetic activates automatically, and they're stuck there until the threat passes. But breathing gives you a control lever. Because here's the key mechanism. Fast, shallow breathing equals sympathetic activation, panic mode. Slow, deep breathing equals parasympathetic activation, calm mode. When you breathe rapidly, 15 to 20 breaths per minute or more, taking quick chest-only breaths, your brain interprets this as a threat signal. We're breathing like we're running from danger. We must be in danger. Activate threat response. The sympathetic system engages. Stress hormones release. Panic builds. But when you breathe slowly, 6 to 8 breaths per minute or less, taking full diaphragmatic breaths, your brain interprets this as a safety signal. We're breathing like we're relaxed. We must be safe. Deactivate threat response. The parasympathetic system engages. Stress hormones decrease. Calm increases. This isn't metaphorical. This is direct physiological cause and effect. Control the breath. Control the nervous system. Control the nervous system. Control your emotional state. Control your emotional state. Control your response during confrontation. The 4-6-8 pattern. Musashi developed a specific breathing pattern for use during confrontations. Modern research has validated that this pattern is nearly optimal for rapidly calming the nervous system under stress. The pattern. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale through your mouth for 6 counts. Hold for 2 counts. Repeat. Let's break down why each component works. 4-count inhale through nose, long enough to fill your lungs completely and engage your diaphragm, the primary breathing muscle deep in your abdomen. Nose breathing filters and warms air, and it stimulates the vagus nerve. More on that shortly. 4 counts is the sweet spot, long enough to be calming, short enough to maintain even under stress. 2-count hold allows gas exchange in your lungs. Oxygen transfers into bloodstream. Carbon dioxide transfers out. This is where the actual breathing happens at cellular level. The hold also prevents hyperventilation and maintains balanced CO2 levels. Too much causes anxiety. Too little causes dizziness. 6-count exhale through mouth. This is the most important part. Longer exhale than inhale. This extended exhale is what triggers parasympathetic activation. When you exhale longer than you inhale, you stimulate the vagus nerve, the main nerve of your parasympathetic system. This sends a direct calm down signal throughout your entire body. Heart rate slows. Blood pressure drops. Stress hormones decrease. Second 2-count hold completes the cycle and maintains the steady rhythm. Prevents you from rushing into the next breath, which would undermine the calming effect. 1 complete cycle takes 14 seconds. In 1 minute, you complete about 4 cycles. Most people notice significant calming after 2 to 3 cycles, 30 to 45 seconds. After 5 cycles, 70 seconds, the effect is substantial. Measurably decreased heart rate, lowered blood pressure, reduced stress hormone levels. How to practice. Strategic breathing isn't something you learn once and have forever. It's a skill that requires training until it becomes automatic. Because in high-pressure confrontation, you won't have mental bandwidth to think, okay, now I need to breathe strategically. You need it to be as natural as your regular breathing. This requires weeks of dedicated practice. Week 1, daily foundation, 10 minutes. Every morning, before anything else, practice the 4-6-8 pattern for 10 minutes. Set a timer. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Breathe through the pattern, counting your head. When your mind wanders, gently return to counting and breathing. You're building the basic skill. Don't just do this once. Do it every single morning, 7 days straight. This creates the neural pathway. Your nervous system learns, oh, this breathing pattern equals calm. The more you practice in calm conditions, the more accessible it becomes in stressful conditions. Week 2, integration practice throughout day. Continue the morning practice, but also add the pattern randomly throughout your day. Before meetings, during commute, before meals, while waiting in line. 2 to 3 minutes each time. You're making it accessible in varied contexts. Your brain learns, I can do this anywhere, anytime. Week 3, low-stakes application. Continue daily practice, but now apply it during minor stresses. Someone cuts you off in traffic. 2 cycles of 4-6-8. Your coffee order is wrong. 3 cycles. Email frustrates you. 5 cycles. You're building the bridge between practice and application, training yourself to reach for this tool when mild stress arises. Week 4, high-stakes application. Now you're ready. Apply it during actual confrontation. Difficult conversation with boss. Tense interaction with family member. Conflict with colleague. As soon as you feel your stress response activating, chest tightening, breathing shallowing, heart racing, engage the pattern. You might not be able to do it perfectly. You might lose count. You might get interrupted. That's fine. Even imperfect application helps. 2 cycles of somewhat correct breathing is infinitely better than 0 cycles of panic breathing. Advanced breathing techniques. Once you've mastered the 4-6-8 pattern, several variations exist for specific situations. Box breathing, 4-4-4-4. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. This creates perfect balance and strong sense of control. Used by Navy SEALs for staying calm in combat. The equal timing creates rhythm that's easy to maintain during extended stress. Use this when you need steady, sustained calm over longer confrontations. Extended exhale, 4-2-8-2. Double the exhale length. Even stronger parasympathetic activation. Use this when you need maximum calming effect and have privacy. Harder to do subtly in public meetings. The 8-count exhale really hammers the vagus nerve stimulation. Tactical breathing, 4-4-4. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4. No hold after exhale. Immediate repeat. This is for sudden stress spikes when you need to regain control fast. The shorter cycle allows more repetitions per minute, giving you rapid intervention capacity. Continuous calm, 5 to 7. Just inhale for 5, exhale for 7, no holds. Simple, continuous, sustainable. You can maintain this indefinitely during long confrontations without anyone noticing. It becomes your baseline breathing pattern during the entire difficult interaction. The vagus nerve connection. The vagus nerve is worth understanding because it's the mechanism behind why breathing works. It's the longest nerve in your body, running from your brainstem down through your neck, chest, and abdomen. It's the primary nerve of your parasympathetic system, your calm down system. When you take long, slow breaths, especially with extended exhales, you stimulate the vagus nerve. This nerve then sends signals throughout your body. Slow the heart, lower blood pressure, reduce stress hormones, calm the amygdala, relax muscles. It's like pressing a master calm button that affects everything simultaneously. People with high vagal tone, meaning their vagus nerve is highly active, handle stress better. They recover from stress faster. They're more emotionally regulated. They're calmer under pressure. And you can increase your vagal tone through consistent breathing practice. It's not fixed. It's trainable. Studies show that just 8 weeks of daily breathing practice significantly increases vagal tone. Your baseline stress reactivity decreases. You become naturally calmer, not because you're suppressing emotions, but because your nervous system's set point has shifted toward parasympathetic dominance. Common mistakes. Mistake 1. Only using it when already panicking. By the time you're in full panic, your thinking brain is offline. Accessing any technique becomes difficult. The time to breathe strategically is when you first notice stress building, not when you're already overwhelmed. Early intervention is vastly more effective. Mistake 2. Breathing too fast. Some people try to power through pattern quickly. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold in 5 seconds total. This defeats the purpose. The slow pace is what triggers parasympathetic activation. If you rush, you're still essentially rapid breathing, which maintains sympathetic activation. Slow down. The full 14-second cycle is necessary. Mistake 3. Chest breathing instead of diaphragm breathing. Shallow chest breathing doesn't engage the diaphragm, which means you're not getting full gas exchange and not fully stimulating the vagus nerve. The inhale should expand your belly, not just your chest. Put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. The belly hand should move more than the chest hand. Mistake 4. Expecting instant perfection. You won't immediately go from heart-racing panic to perfect calm after one breath cycle. It's gradual. 2 to 3 cycles before you notice change. 5 to 6 cycles before substantial calm. And if you're in extreme stress, even then you might only go from completely overwhelmed to partially functional. That's still success. Partially functional beats completely overwhelmed. Real-world application examples. Scenario 1. The hostile meeting. You're walking into a meeting where you'll be confronted about project delays. You feel your stress building in the elevator. Start the breathing pattern. For cycles before you enter the room. Your heart rate is still elevated, but manageable. During the meeting, when accusations fly, you continue the pattern subtly. No one notices. You're breathing slowly while everyone else is breathing rapidly. This gives you a massive advantage in staying clear-headed while they become increasingly emotional. Scenario 2. Family confrontation. Your family member starts the usual manipulation tactics at dinner. You feel anger flash. Immediately, you excuse yourself to the bathroom. 2 minutes of intensive breathing. 6 cycles. You return to the table calm enough to set boundaries without exploding. The breathing didn't make you stop feeling angry, but it kept the anger from controlling you. Scenario 3. The public challenge. Someone challenges your authority in front of a group. You feel the defensive reaction starting. Flushed face, racing heart, the urge to attack back. Before responding, you take 1 deliberate breath. 4 counts in through nose, 6 counts out through mouth. Just 1 cycle. But that 14 seconds creates enough space to choose a strategic response instead of a defensive attack. The breathing didn't make the challenge easier, but it kept you functional enough to handle it professionally. The breath-mind loop. Here's something profound. The relationship between breath and mental state is bidirectional. Your mental state affects your breathing, but your breathing also affects your mental state. This creates a loop that can work for you or against you. Negative loop. Stress, rapid breathing, more stress, even more rapid breathing, panic. This is the spiral most people experience during confrontation. Their stress makes them breathe fast, which increases stress, which makes them breathe even faster, which increases stress further, until they're completely overwhelmed. Positive loop. Initial stress, strategic breathing, reduced stress, continued strategic breathing, increased calm, even calmer breathing, deep calm. You interrupt the negative loop by taking conscious control of the one variable you can directly control, breath. And this creates an upward spiral instead of a downward one. Musashi understood this intuitively. Modern neuroscience has confirmed it mechanistically. The breath is the bridge between body and mind. Control the bridge, and you control traffic in both directions. When breathing isn't enough, strategic breathing is powerful, but it has limits. In extreme confrontation, when someone's screaming at you, when you're being physically threatened, when the stakes are devastatingly high, breathing helps, but doesn't fully solve the problem. You can breathe strategically and still feel overwhelming pressure. This is why it's one principle among four. Emotional distance creates mental space to observe rather than become your emotions. Anticipatory awareness prepares you so you're not completely caught off guard. Strategic breathing controls your physiological response, so you can think clearly. But there's still one piece missing: direction. You can be calm, prepared, and breathing perfectly, and still not know what to do. Or worse, you can be so focused on maintaining calm that you become passive. You don't react, which is good, but you also don't act, which is bad. Calmness without purpose is just passivity, and passive people get run over during confrontation. This is where the fourth principle completes the system: purposeful action. The practice of defining your actual objective before confrontation begins. So all your calm, all your preparation, all your controlled breathing serves a specific strategic goal. You're not just staying calm for the sake of being calm. You're staying calm so you can win. Chapter 4. Purposeful Action, Directing Your Calm. Musashi wrote, "Having a clear purpose is more powerful than having strong emotions." While his opponents fought from anger or fear, Musashi always fought with a specific objective in mind. This focus on purpose kept him from being reactive, while also preventing him from being passive. He wasn't just calm, he was calmly lethal. His composure served his goal, winning. This is the distinction most people miss when they learn emotional control. They think the goal is to stay calm. It's not. Staying calm is a means to an end, not the end itself. The goal is to achieve your actual objectives during confrontation, and that requires purposeful action, directing your composure towards specific outcomes. Without purpose, your newfound calm can actually work against you. You become so focused on not reacting that you stop acting. Someone pushes unreasonable demands, and you breathe through your frustration and accept them. Someone takes credit for your work, and you observe your anger without addressing the behavior. Someone manipulates you, and you notice your reaction without setting boundaries. You're calm, but you're also being walked over. This isn't what Musashi meant by emotional control. Musashi was never passive. He was decisive, aggressive when needed, strategic always. But his aggression and strategy served his purpose rather than his emotions. He didn't lash out because he was angry. He struck because striking achieved his objective. He didn't retreat because he was afraid. He repositioned because repositioning created advantage. Every action in service of the goal. Survive and win. You need the same clarity. Before any confrontation, you need to know, what am I actually trying to achieve here? Not what feels good in the moment. Not what would satisfy my ego. Not what would make me look good. What outcome would actually serve my long-term goals and values? The one-sentence clarity. Before Musashi entered any duel, his purpose was crystal clear. Win. Survive. Not fight honorably. Not demonstrate superior technique. Not prove my worth. Win. Survive. Everything he did served that singular objective. And because he was so clear on purpose, he could make decisions that others found confusing or dishonorable. Arriving late to frustrate Kojiro? Served the purpose. Using a wooden sword instead of steel? Served the purpose. Striking before formal greetings were complete? Served the purpose. He wasn't bound by convention or ego. He was bound by purpose. And purpose gave him freedom to do whatever actually worked. You need the same clarity in your confrontations. Define your actual objective in one sentence before the interaction begins. This sentence becomes your anchor. When emotions threaten to pull you off course, return to it. When the other person tries to derail the conversation, return to it. When you feel yourself getting reactive or passive, return to it. Examples. Work confrontation with boss. My purpose is to demonstrate progress and maintain project funding. Not to defend past failures. Not to prove boss wrong. Not to be liked. Just demonstrate progress and maintain funding. Everything else is distraction. Family manipulation situation. My purpose is to maintain relationship while protecting my boundaries. Not to make them happy. Not to avoid all conflict. Not to punish them. Just maintain relationship plus protect boundaries. Both parts matter equally. Negotiation with vendor. My purpose is to get optimal terms while preserving relationship for future business. Not to win every point. Not to be aggressive. Not to be accommodating. Just optimal terms plus relationship preservation. Conflict with colleague. My purpose is to set clear boundary that prevents this behavior from recurring. Not to punish. Not to shame. Not to escalate. Just establish boundary. Clear and enforceable. One sentence. One clear objective. Everything you say and do during the confrontation should serve this purpose. If it doesn't serve the purpose, don't do it, no matter how good it would feel in the moment. The purpose filter. Once you've defined your purpose, use it as a filter for every potential action during confrontation. Someone says something that triggers defensiveness. Before responding, ask, does getting defensive serve my purpose? Usually the answer is no. Defensiveness serves ego protection, not strategic objectives. So you don't get defensive, not because you suppressed a feeling, but because defensiveness doesn't serve your actual goal. Someone tries to bait you into an argument about something peripheral. Before engaging, ask, does arguing about this serve my purpose? If your purpose is to maintain project funding and they're trying to argue about something from 6 months ago, the answer is no, so you don't take the bait. That's a separate issue we can discuss later. Right now, I want to focus on current progress. Someone offers a compromise that feels unsatisfying. Before accepting or rejecting, ask, does this serve my purpose? Maybe it does. Maybe getting 70% of what you want is actually sufficient for your objective, even though your ego wants 100%. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe accepting this compromise undermines your core objective, and you need to hold firm. The purpose filter tells you which. This filter prevents you from making emotional decisions disguised as logical ones. It keeps you strategically aligned even when emotions are running high. You're not ignoring emotions. You're ensuring they serve your purpose rather than hijack it. Strategic aggression versus reactive aggression. Here's something that confuses people about emotional control. They think it means never being aggressive. It doesn't. Sometimes aggression serves your purpose. Sometimes direct confrontation is exactly what's needed. The difference is between reactive aggression and strategic aggression. Reactive aggression, you feel disrespected. Anger flashes. You lash out to hurt them back. This serves your emotion, anger, and your ego, restoring feeling of power. But it usually doesn't serve your actual objectives. It escalates conflict, damages relationships, makes you look unstable, and often undermines your position. Strategic aggression. You calmly assess that direct confrontation serves your purpose, so you deliver it precisely. Not because you're angry, because it's effective. A team member consistently misses deadlines. You've been patient and supportive. It hasn't worked. Your purpose is to either get them performing or move them out. Strategic aggression. The next 2 deadlines must be met. No exceptions. If they are, we continue normally. If not, we discuss whether this role fits. Direct, clear, aggressive, but serving purpose, not emotion. Musashi was ruthlessly aggressive in combat, but his aggression was always strategic, never reactive. He struck when striking served his purpose of winning. He repositioned when repositioning served his purpose of creating advantage. Observers might have seen ruthless aggression, but Musashi himself was calm inside, executing purpose-driven actions. You can be the same. Sometimes your purpose requires direct confrontation, clear boundary setting, unambiguous consequences, even raised voice or forceful language. That's fine, as long as it serves your purpose rather than your emotion. The test: would you make this same choice if you were completely calm? If yes, it's strategic. If no, it's reactive. When purpose conflicts with emotion. The hardest test of purposeful action comes when your purpose requires something your emotions desperately don't want. When staying calm and strategic feels like being weak. When setting boundaries feels like being cruel. When walking away feels like losing. This is where most people fail. Their purpose tells them one thing. Their emotions scream for another, and emotions win. They know they should stay calm, but they explode anyway. They know they should hold their boundary, but they cave anyway. They know they should walk away, but they escalate anyway. Because the emotional pull is stronger than their commitment to purpose. Musashi faced this constantly. His opponents would insult him, trying to provoke emotional reaction. His pride wanted him to respond, to defend his honor, but his purpose was to win the duel, not win the verbal sparring. So he ignored insults that would have triggered any normal person, not because he didn't feel the sting, but because responding to insults didn't serve winning. You'll face the same test. Someone insults you in a meeting. Your pride screams to fire back, but your purpose is to maintain credibility and achieve your project goals. Firing back would feel good for 3 seconds and undermine your credibility for 3 months. Purpose says stay quiet. Emotion says attack. Who wins? Someone manipulates you through guilt. Your desire to be seen as good and caring screams to comply. But your purpose is to maintain boundaries while preserving relationship. Compliance would ease guilt for 1 day and create resentment for months. Purpose says hold boundary. Emotion says cave. Who wins? The answer determines whether you master confrontation or confrontation masters you. The outcome detachment paradox. Here's something subtle but crucial. You need to be completely committed to your purpose while being somewhat detached from specific outcomes. This sounds contradictory, but it's not. Commitment to purpose means you're clear on what you're trying to achieve, and you direct all actions toward that end. But detachment from outcome means you don't collapse emotionally if you don't get exactly what you wanted. You did everything in your control. You stayed calm. You acted strategically. You served your purpose. And you accept whatever results from that. This prevents desperate energy that undermines negotiation. When someone senses you desperately need a specific outcome, they have leverage over you. But when you're clearly pursuing your purpose, while also being okay if it doesn't work out exactly as you hoped, you maintain power. You're not attached. You're not desperate. You're just clear and committed. Musashi demonstrated this in his later years. After decades of dueling, he walked away from several challenges, not because he was afraid, but because his purpose evolved from win duels to develop complete mastery and teach others. Fighting more duels didn't serve his evolved purpose, so he declined. No ego, no fear, just purpose clarity allowing him to walk away from fights that didn't matter. Multiple confrontation types. Your purpose shifts depending on confrontation type. Let's map several scenarios. Boss criticism. Purpose. Demonstrate value, maintain position, and build toward advancement. Not defend ego, prove boss wrong when argument. Action. Acknowledge valid points, provide evidence of solutions, commit to specific improvements. Strategic. Purpose-driven. Family manipulation. Purpose. Maintain relationship while protecting boundaries. Not punish manipulator. Avoid all conflict. Make them happy. Action. Name the manipulation calmly. State your boundary clearly. Offer connection within your boundary. Firm but loving. Colleague undermining. Purpose. Stop the behavior and protect your work. Not destroy colleague. Look good by comparison. Avoid confrontation. Action. Private conversation naming pattern. Clear statement of unacceptability. Boundary for future. Direct but professional. Negotiation. Purpose. Achieve optimal terms within acceptable range while preserving relationship. Not win every point. Dominate counterparty. Accept everything to be liked. Action. Clear on must-haves versus nice-to-haves. Willing to compromise on latter to achieve former. Maintain respect throughout. Public challenge. Purpose. Maintain credibility and authority while addressing valid concerns. Not crush challenger. Defend ego. Avoid looking questioned. Action. Welcome the question. Address it thoroughly. Thank them for raising it. Confidence, not defensiveness. Notice how each purpose dictates different actions. There's no universal right response to confrontation. There's only what serves your purpose in this specific situation. Practice protocol. Step 1. Purpose library. Create a list of your recurring confrontation types and your purpose for each. Be honest about what you actually want to achieve. Write it down. 1 sentence per confrontation type. This library becomes your quick reference guide. Step 2. Pre-confrontation clarity. Before any anticipated difficult interaction, write your purpose at the top of a page. 1 sentence. Look at it. Memorize it. If you can't bring the page into the confrontation, visualize it clearly in your mind. Step 3. Mid-confrontation check-ins. During longer confrontations, periodically check in mentally. Am I still serving my purpose? Or have I gotten derailed into defending ego, / attacking them, / avoiding discomfort? If derailed, return to purpose. This might mean redirecting conversation. I think we're getting off track. What I'm really trying to accomplish here is Step 4. Post-confrontation evaluation. After confrontation ends, evaluate. Did I serve my purpose? Did I let emotion override strategy? What would I do differently next time? This evaluation doesn't mean beating yourself up for imperfection. It means learning from each confrontation to improve the next one. The 5th principle. There's a 5th principle hiding in everything we've covered. Musashi never stated it explicitly, but it's implied throughout his writings and demonstrated in his life. After 60 undefeated duels, he stopped dueling. He spent his final decades teaching, writing, creating art, developing philosophy. He transcended the need for confrontation entirely. The 5th principle is this: The ultimate goal isn't winning every confrontation. It's transcending the need for most confrontations. Becoming so skilled at emotional control that you only engage in conflicts that actually serve important purposes, and declining all others, not from fear, but from purpose clarity. When you master the 4 principles: emotional distance, anticipatory awareness, strategic breathing, purposeful action, something unexpected happens. You realize how many confrontations are actually unnecessary. How many are just ego games, or emotional reactions, or manipulation attempts that don't deserve your engagement. Someone tries to provoke you. You notice the provocation, emotional distance. See their pattern, anticipatory awareness. Stay calm, strategic breathing. Check your purpose, purposeful action. And realize, this confrontation serves no purpose, so you don't participate. You don't avoid it from fear. You decline it from wisdom. The confrontation simply doesn't happen because you didn't provide the reaction it needed to exist. This is mastery. Not winning every confrontation. Choosing which confrontations to engage in. And in those chosen confrontations, the ones that actually matter for your values, goals, and people you care about, being absolutely unbeatable because you've mastered yourself first. Chapter 5. Integration, combining the principles. You've learned 4 principles: emotional distance, anticipatory awareness, strategic breathing, and purposeful action. Separately, each is powerful. Together, they form a complete system for maintaining absolute composure during confrontation. But understanding them separately and integrating them practically are different challenges. This is where most people stumble. They know the techniques, but in the heat of actual confrontation, they can't remember which one to use when. Or they apply one but forget the others. Or they try to use all 4 simultaneously and become overwhelmed by the complexity. Integration is its own skill that requires systematic practice. The sequence of application. The 4 principles aren't random. They follow a logical sequence that builds from foundation to action. Before confrontation, anticipatory awareness plus purpose clarity. Hours or days before an anticipated difficult interaction, engage anticipatory awareness. Map patterns. Ask the 3 questions. Prepare for likely scenarios. Define your purpose in 1 clear sentence. This pre-work sets the foundation. You're not walking into unknown territory unprepared. During confrontation start, strategic breathing. As confrontation begins and you feel your stress response activating, immediately engage strategic breathing. 2 to 3 cycles of 4-6-8 before you say anything significant. This prevents your amygdala from completely hijacking your system. You're regulating your physiology right from the start. During confrontation, emotional distance. As emotions arise throughout the interaction, and they will arise, practice emotional distance. I'm noticing anger. I'm noticing defensiveness. I'm noticing fear. You're creating observation space between stimulus and response. You're not becoming your emotions. You're watching them while maintaining strategic thinking. Throughout confrontation, purpose filter. Every time you're about to speak or act, run it through the purpose filter. Does this serve my actual objective? If yes, do it. If no, don't. Your purpose becomes the North Star that keeps you from being pulled off course by emotional reactions or clever manipulation. After confrontation, review and refine. After the interaction ends, review what worked and what didn't. Which principle did you apply well? Which did you forget? What would you do differently next time? This reflection sharpens your integration skill over time. This sequence, before, during start, during middle, throughout, after, gives you a practical framework for when to apply what. You're not trying to remember everything simultaneously. You're following a progression that naturally unfolds through the confrontation life cycle. Real-world integration example. Let's walk through a complete confrontation using all 4 principles integrated. Scenario: your boss schedules a sudden meeting. Subject line: performance discussion. Your pattern recognition kicks in. Anticipatory awareness: this isn't good. Previous performance discussions have been criticism sessions. You have 4 hours until the meeting. Pre-work: you engage anticipatory awareness fully. Ask the 3 questions. 1. Boss is under pressure from his superiors to show department improvement. He's probably stressed and results-focused. 2. He wants evidence that problems are being solved and won't recur. 3 scenarios. He'll list criticisms and want responses, likely. He'll put you on formal improvement plan, possible. He'll terminate, unlikely, but prepare for it. You define your purpose. Demonstrate progress and maintain my position. Not defend past decisions, not prove him wrong, not be liked. Just show progress and keep position. You prepare evidence. 3 concrete examples of improvements you've made this month. Data showing positive trend. Specific next steps you're taking. You're anticipating what his criticisms will be and preparing responses. Meeting starts. You walk into his office. Feel your heart rate elevating. Immediately engage strategic breathing as you sit down. 2 cycles of 4-6-8 while he's pulling up his notes. Your heart rate moderates. You're not perfectly calm, but you're functional. He starts. We need to discuss ongoing performance issues. The Q3 numbers were disappointing. Client feedback has been mixed, and I'm concerned about trajectory. During interaction, you notice defensiveness rising, emotional distance. I'm noticing defensiveness. You don't become it. You breathe, 1 cycle of 4-6-8, while nodding to show you're listening. You check your purpose. Demonstrate progress. So you don't defend Q3. That's past. You acknowledge and redirect to present. I understand your concerns. Here's what I've changed since Q3 to address those specific issues. You present your 3 examples. Evidence-based. Future-focused. He pushes back. But how do I know this won't happen again? You notice anxiety spiking, emotional distance. I'm noticing anxiety. Breathe, strategic breathing. Check purpose, purposeful action. He wants confidence in prevention. So you don't get defensive or make promises you can't keep. You provide concrete systems you've implemented. I've set up weekly check-ins with clients, implemented new tracking protocols, and built buffer time into all estimates. These systems prevent the specific issues that caused Q3 problems. He seems somewhat satisfied but not fully convinced. I need to see sustained improvement. Let's do bi-weekly check-ins for the next 60 days. If trajectory stays positive, we're good. If not, we'll need to discuss next steps. You check your purpose. Maintain position. This achieves that, even though it means more oversight than you'd like. That works. I'll send you progress updates every other Friday. No defensiveness. No resistance to reasonable monitoring. Just acceptance that serves your purpose. Post-meeting. Meeting ends. You didn't get the great job affirmation your ego wanted, but you achieved your purpose. Position maintained. Plan for improvement agreed upon. Relationship not damaged. You review. Anticipatory awareness helped tremendously. You weren't blindsided by criticism. Strategic breathing kept you functional despite anxiety. Emotional distance prevented defensive spiraling. Purpose clarity kept you focused on actual goals rather than ego protection. Integration worked. You note for next time. Could have used more breathing during his pushback moment. Could have been even more specific with evidence. But overall, solid application. This is what integration looks like in practice. Not perfect, not effortless, but functional. strategic, effective. Common integration failures. Failure 1. Forgetting everything under pressure. You've learned all 4 principles. But the moment real confrontation hits, your mind goes blank and you react exactly like you used to. This is normal early in practice. The solution: start with just 1 principle. Master emotional distance first. Practice it for a month until it's automatic. Then add anticipatory awareness. Practice both for a month. Then add strategic breathing. Build the stack gradually. Don't try to integrate everything simultaneously before each principle is individually solid. Failure 2. Over-reliance on 1 principle. You discover strategic breathing works well, so you only use that. You breathe through every confrontation but forget to anticipate. Forget to observe emotions. Forget to check purpose. The principles work best together. Breathing alone can make you calm but passive. Emotional distance alone can make you detached but unprepared. Purpose alone can make you driven but reactive. The integration is what creates mastery. Failure 3. Mechanical application without understanding. You follow the sequence rigidly. Breathe, observe, check purpose, repeat. But you're doing it mechanically without actually engaging with what's happening. This creates fake calm. You look composed, but you're actually just going through motions while still being internally reactive. The principles aren't checklists. They're frameworks for engaging with confrontation consciously rather than automatically. Failure 4. Expecting immediate mastery. You try integration once. It doesn't work perfectly. You conclude the system doesn't work. This is like trying 1 guitar lesson and concluding you'll never play music. Integration is a skill built over months, not moments. Your first attempts will be clumsy. You'll forget principles. You'll apply them incorrectly. This is learning. Keep practicing. The integration smooths over time. The 3-month integration plan. Month 1, foundation. Master emotional distance. Practice daily with minor annoyances. Apply weekly in low-stakes confrontations. Goal: noticing emotions becomes automatic. You catch yourself fusing with emotions and can create observation space without thinking about it. Month 2, preparation and regulation. Add anticipatory awareness and strategic breathing. Before any difficult interaction, map patterns and define purpose. During interaction, engage breathing when stress rises. Goal: you walk into confrontations prepared and can regulate physiology under pressure. Month 3, full integration. Combine all 4 in real confrontations. Use the sequence. Prepare beforehand, anticipatory awareness plus purpose. Breathe at start, strategic breathing. Observe throughout, emotional distance. Filter continuously, purposeful action. Goal: all 4 principles working together without conscious effort. Beyond month 3, refinement. Continue practicing in progressively harder confrontations. Each one teaches you something. Each one sharpens integration. Over 6 months, integration becomes natural. Over a year, it becomes who you are. Different confrontation types require different emphasis. Not every confrontation requires equal emphasis on all 4 principles. Some situations call for heavy anticipatory awareness. Others require maximum strategic breathing. Learning which emphasis serves which situation is part of integration mastery. Sudden confrontation, no warning. Heavy emphasis on emotional distance and strategic breathing. You can't anticipate what you didn't see coming, but you can observe your reaction and breathe through the initial shock. Purpose clarity comes second, after you've stabilized enough to think, what am I actually trying to achieve here? Recurring confrontation, same person/pattern. Heavy emphasis on anticipatory awareness and purposeful action. You know what's coming. You can prepare extensively. Map their patterns. Define your purpose clearly. The breathing and emotional distance are still present, but require less focus because you're less caught off guard. High-stakes confrontation, everything on the line. Balance all four equally. This is when integration really matters. Pre-work the anticipation and purpose. Breathe consistently throughout. Observe emotions continuously. Stay purpose-focused relentlessly. All four at maximum. Low-stakes confrontation, minor conflict. Use this as practice ground. Maybe just emotional distance and breathing. Don't over-prepare for minor conflicts, but to use them as training for bigger ones. Every confrontation is practice for the next, when integration still isn't enough. Even with all four principles integrated and practiced, you'll still encounter confrontations that overwhelm you. Someone hits your deepest trigger. Stakes are catastrophically high. The other person is exceptionally skilled at manipulation. You did everything right and still lost control. This will happen, and it's not failure. It's a reminder that you're human. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is improving your baseline. You used to lose control in 90% of confrontations. After mastering these principles, maybe you lose control in 20%. That's not failure. That's massive success. When you do lose control despite integration, don't catastrophize. One failure doesn't erase months of progress. You had a bad confrontation. You're still dramatically better than before you started practicing. Analyze without judgment what triggered the breakdown. Which principle failed first? What additional support would you need to handle this situation better next time? This is data, not shame. Repair if possible. If you said or did something you regret, repair it. Apologize if appropriate. Acknowledge your loss of control. This doesn't undermine your authority. It demonstrates maturity. Return to practice. Don't abandon the system because it didn't work once. Return to basics. Maybe you need more work on one principle. Maybe the situation revealed a gap in your training. Address it and continue. The path to mastery isn't linear. You don't progress smoothly from terrible to perfect. You zigzag. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sudden leap forward. Plateau. Another leap. Temporary regression. Gradual improvement. This is normal. This is how skill development works. Musashi didn't win his first 60 duels through perfection. He won them through relentless practice, learning from every confrontation, refining his approach continuously. Some duels were close. Some were easy, but he kept practicing, kept integrating, kept mastering himself. You do the same. Each confrontation is practice. Each failure is data. Each success is reinforcement. Over time, the integration becomes seamless. The principles become invisible. You're not thinking, now I should breathe. Now I should check purpose. You're just calmly handling whatever arises. This is mastery, and it's available to anyone willing to practice consistently. Conclusion: the unshakable mind. So here you are. You've learned the complete Musashi method for principles that work together as a system for maintaining absolute composure during any confrontation. Not through willpower, that fails under pressure. Not through motivation, that's too unreliable. But through technique. Specific, trainable, neurologically backed techniques that work even when you're terrified, even when you're furious, even when every instinct screams panic. Emotional distance. Creating space between what you feel and how you respond. Observing emotions without becoming them. I'm noticing anger instead of I am angry. Anticipatory awareness. Preparing your mind before confrontation hits so you're never completely blindsided. Mapping patterns. Asking the 3 questions. Removing surprise. Strategic breathing. Directly controlling your nervous system through breath. Slow breathing activates parasympathetic mode. Fast breathing triggers sympathetic mode. Control breath, control state. Purposeful action. Defining your actual objective before confrontation begins. Everything you say and do serves this purpose. Calm without purpose is just passivity. Calm with purpose is power. These aren't just philosophical concepts. They're practical tools. But tools are only valuable if you actually use them. And that's where most people fail. They understand intellectually. They nod along. They think this makes sense. Then they return to exactly how they were before. Same panic. Same reactions. Same loss of control. Don't be most people. The two paths. The person you are right now is standing at a fork. One path leads back to comfortable patterns. You keep panicking during confrontation. Keep saying things you regret. Keep being controlled by emotions. Keep losing battles you should win. This path is easy. No practice required. No change necessary. Just remain exactly as you are. Let me paint you a picture of this path. 1 year from now, you're in the same position. Maybe worse. That difficult boss still makes you stammer and freeze. That manipulative family member still controls you through guilt. That aggressive colleague still pushes you around because they know you won't push back. You're still lying awake at night replaying confrontations, thinking of what you should have said, hating yourself for losing control again. The other path leads forward into mastery. You practice these principles systematically. You fail repeatedly. You learn from each failure. You gradually build skill. And over months, you transform from someone who loses control into someone who maintains it. This path is harder. Practice required. Change demanded. But mastery awaits. Picture this path. 1 year from now, you're in a high-stakes meeting. Someone attacks your proposal aggressively. Everyone's watching, and you smile. Not because you're nervous, because you see exactly what they're doing. You notice your defensiveness rising. You breathe. You check your purpose. And you respond with such calm precision that the room shifts. The meeting ends in your favor. Not because you're the loudest, because you're the calmest. Which path will you choose? Not choosing is choosing. If you do nothing, you've chosen the first path by default. So choose actively. Choose consciously. Choose now. Your implementation roadmap. If you choose mastery, here's your starting point. Week 1, emotional distance only. Don't try to learn everything at once. Just practice noticing emotions instead of becoming them. Every minor annoyance is practice. Someone cuts you off in traffic. I'm noticing irritation. Your coffee order is wrong. I'm noticing frustration. Do this 50 times this week minimum. Build the foundation. At night, review. How many times did I catch myself fusing with an emotion? What patterns am I noticing? Write 3 sentences. This reflection builds meta-awareness. Week 2 to 3. Add strategic breathing. Continue emotional distance practice. Add 10 minutes of 4-6-8 breathing every morning. Non-negotiable. But also practice throughout the day, before meals, during commute, while waiting. 2 to 3 minutes each time. You're making it automatic so it's available under high stress. By week 3, the pattern should feel natural. Test it. Can you do 3 cycles while someone's talking without losing track? If yes, you're ready. Week 4 to 5. Add anticipatory awareness. Keep practicing distance and breathing. Now add pattern mapping. Identify your 3 recurring difficult people or situations. For each one, answer. What behaviors trigger confrontation? What's their usual emotional state? What phrases do they use? What do they actually want? Write detailed answers. Before interactions, ask the 3 questions. What's their likely emotional state? What do they want? What are 3 ways they might react? Mentally rehearse responses. After, review what you predicted correctly and what surprised you. Week 6 to 8, add purposeful action. Before any confrontation, define your purpose in one sentence. My purpose in this conversation is to. Now it feels good. What outcome serves your long-term goals? During confrontation, filter everything through purpose. Does this serve my goal? If yes, do it. If no, don't. By week 8, this filter becomes intuitive. Week 9 to 12, integration. Combine all 4 in actual confrontations. Prepare beforehand. Breathe at start. Observe throughout. Filter continuously. You'll be clumsy. You'll forget principles mid-confrontation. This is normal. Every failure teaches you where the system broke down. Keep a confrontation journal. Which principles did I use? Which did I forget? What worked? What didn't? What's one thing I'll do differently? This accelerates learning. Month 4+, refinement. Apply the system in progressively harder confrontations. Each one sharpens your skill. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be 10% better than last month. That compounds into dramatic transformation. This timeline isn't rigid. Some progress faster, some slower. The pace doesn't matter. The direction matters. Forward momentum. Consistent practice. Gradual improvement. What awaits you? If you actually practice. Not just understand, but practice. Here's what happens. In 1 month, you'll handle at least one confrontation significantly better than before. You'll catch yourself about to react emotionally and choose a strategic response instead. This first success proves the system works. It builds confidence for continued practice. In 3 months, your baseline anxiety about confrontation decreases measurably. That upcoming difficult meeting? Still stressful, but manageable instead of overwhelming. Situations that used to completely overwhelm you now just elevate stress moderately. You can think during them instead of just surviving. In 6 months, other people start commenting. You're really calm under pressure. Nothing seems to rattle you. You handle conflict really well. Your boss notices you don't panic during criticism. Your partner notices you don't escalate during arguments. More importantly, you start seeking out difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. Not because you enjoy conflict, but because you're no longer afraid of it. You know you can handle it. In 1 year, you look back at situations that used to overwhelm you and barely recognize that person. The you who panicked during confrontations, who lost control, who said things you regretted. That person is gone, not because you suppressed them, but because you evolved beyond them. And here's what's most remarkable. This transformation doesn't just affect confrontation. It bleeds into everything. You're calmer in general, less reactive to stress, more strategic in decision-making, better at handling uncertainty. The skills you develop for confrontation turn out to be life skills. Your relationships improve because you can have difficult conversations without escalating. Your career advances because you can handle pressure without panicking. Your self-respect increases because you keep your word to yourself. Everything improves because self-mastery is the foundation of everything. This is what Musashi discovered. That mastering yourself during confrontation teaches you how to master yourself during everything else. And self-mastery is the foundation of all achievement, all peace, all power, the deepest truth. There's something about mastering confrontation that only becomes clear after months of practice. Something Musashi understood but rarely stated explicitly. Most confrontations are unnecessary. This sounds paradoxical. You just learned a complete system for handling confrontation. Now I'm telling you most don't need to happen? Yes, because here's what occurs when you truly master emotional control. You stop taking bait. You stop reacting to provocations. You stop engaging in pointless conflicts. Someone tries to provoke you. You notice the provocation, emotional distance. You see their pattern, anticipatory awareness. You stay calm, strategic breathing. You check your purpose, purposeful action. And you realize this confrontation serves no purpose. Engaging would satisfy their need for drama, but wouldn't achieve any of my goals. So you don't engage. Not from fear, from wisdom. The confrontation simply doesn't happen because you didn't provide the reaction it needed to exist. This is the ultimate level of mastery. Not winning every confrontation, but only engaging in confrontations that actually matter. And in those confrontations, the ones that truly serve your values, goals, and people you care about, being absolutely unbeatable because you've mastered yourself first. Think about how much energy you've wasted on pointless confrontations, arguments that achieved nothing, conflicts that damaged relationships without solving problems. All that wasted energy, all that unnecessary stress, gone, replaced by strategic silence or calm redirection or a simple disengagement. Musashi fought 60 duels and never lost. But after his final duel at age 29, he stopped dueling entirely. He didn't become weak. He became so skilled that no one challenged him anymore. And the few who did, he could defeat without fighting, through reputation, through strategy, through simply walking away because the fight didn't serve any purpose. This is your path, not to become someone who fights better, but to become someone who only fights when it matters. And when it matters, to fight with such calm precision that victory is inevitable. Common pitfalls. Let me tell you what will try to stop you. Pitfall 1. Quitting after first failure. You'll try these techniques and lose control anyway. You'll think this doesn't work for me. Wrong. One failure means you're learning. Every master sucked at first. The difference? Masters kept practicing. Solution: expect failure. Analyze why without judgment. Which principle did you forget? What will you do differently? Then practice again. Pitfall 2. Practicing only when calm. You do breathing practice when relaxed. You think about emotional distance when there's no emotion. This is practice theater. Real skill develops under pressure. Solution: deliberately seek slightly uncomfortable confrontations. Start small, then medium, then large. Progressive exposure. This is how skill becomes reflexive. Pitfall 3. Using techniques as avoidance. Some people use these skills to avoid all confrontation. I'm being strategic. No, you're being avoidant. Strategic disengagement is declining pointless battles from strength. Avoidance is declining all battles from fear. Solution: distinguish between wisdom and fear. Once monthly, have a confrontation you've been avoiding, not to prove anything, but to keep expanding your comfort zone. Pitfall 4. Expecting perfection. Mastery isn't perfection. Mastery is dramatically better than before while still being human. You'll still have bad days. The difference: it happens 20% of the time instead of 90%. You recover in minutes instead of days. Solution: measure progress against your past self, not some imaginary ideal. Are you better than 6 months ago? That's success. The last words. Musashi spent his final years alone in a cave writing. His last work, Dakoto, The Way of Walking Alone, contained 21 precepts for living. The first one was, accept everything just the way it is. This sounds passive. It's not. It means, stop fighting reality. Stop wishing confrontations didn't exist. Stop wishing people were different. Stop wishing life was easier. Accept that confrontation is inevitable. Accept that some people will challenge you. Accept that difficulty is part of existence. And then master the skills to handle it all calmly. You can't control whether confrontation comes, but you can control how you respond. And that control, that unshakable calm in the face of chaos, is the most powerful skill you can develop. Everything in life flows from this. Your career requires handling difficult negotiations. Your relationships require navigating conflict without destroying connection. Your self-respect requires keeping your word to yourself. Your peace requires not being controlled by every provocation. Everything requires emotional control. This is the foundational skill that makes all others possible. So begin. Not perfectly. Not completely. Just begin. With one person. One situation. One confrontation at a time. Notice your emotions instead of becoming them. Anticipate patterns instead of being surprised by them. Breathe strategically instead of panic breathing. Act purposefully instead of reacting emotionally. Do this consistently. Do this imperfectly. Do this now. Because here's what's waiting: freedom. Not freedom from confrontation. That's impossible. Freedom from being controlled by confrontation. Freedom from losing yourself when pressure rises. Freedom from saying things you regret. Freedom from being manipulated through your emotional reactions. Freedom from fear of difficult conversations. This freedom isn't given. It's earned. Through practice. Through failure. Through getting back up and trying again. Through gradually, persistently building the skill of self-mastery. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll face someone trying to make you panic. Trying to make you lose control. Trying to prove they have power over you. They'll use every tactic that used to work. Every button that used to trigger you. And you'll realize they can't. Not anymore. You've become unshakable. You'll see their anger, their manipulation, and you'll just observe it. I'm noticing they're trying to trigger me. You'll breathe. 3 calm cycles while they're expecting you to explode. You'll check your purpose. Does this serve my goals? Usually no. So you won't engage. Or if you do, it'll be surgical, precise, strategic. That's when you'll understand what Musashi understood. That true victory isn't defeating your opponent. It's mastering yourself so completely that your opponent's attacks can't reach you. You're not in the battle they're trying to start. You're operating from a different level. A level of calm they can't comprehend. A level of control they've never experienced. A level of power that comes not from dominating others, but from mastering yourself. You're already calm, already clear, already powerful, already free. The confrontation is already over. They just don't know it yet. But you do. And that makes all the difference. The Musashi method. Master it. Become it. Live it. The way begins now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when circumstances improve. Now. This moment. This breath. This choice. Will you take it? Will you walk the path of mastery? Will you become unshakable? The choice is yours. The method is proven. The time is now. Begin.